Do you see people leaving the church all around you, but you don't know why? What if we told you that you can change that?
I am so excited about this topic, Alana, and I'm going to talk to the first thing that you need to understand when you encounter somebody who is thinking about leaving the church is understanding their story. And what I always like to say is getting to the why. Why is it? What's going on right now? And you have to be a very good listener. And I love just asking why. So for example, if somebody says, "Oh, I'm leaving the church because they don't have good stuff for my kids or whatever." Well, why? Why is that important? Well, because da 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 da. Well, why is that important? So you just keep going, understanding their story in a way that lets them reveal, like self reveal, what's really at the heart of it. Because I think oftentimes when somebody is leaving, it really isn't, they'll give you the first explanation will be something kind of topical, not really what's going on in their life. And if you can be a good enough listener and keep asking inquisitive questions, you can get them to reveal, oh, this is what's really going on. And then I think they're in a good position then to potentially reevaluate. So that's my first point. I would say is understand their story. What about you? What would be the next thing that you would see?
I would say next would be so then once you understand the story, then to understand their hearts. So our hearts are all coming from a different place in different seasons. And so you may, like you said, you may just hear the surface level of what's going on or the explanation that they might want to give you or the story they give you, but there may be something deeper in their hearts, a past experience, some trauma, some deep pains, or it could even be, I think, a situation with someone within the church that they're experiencing and they aren't ready to talk about. So I think that jumping to conclusions is not a good way to handle it, is to just try to understand their thought process, and instead of trying to see fault in that, to try to understand their heart in it a little bit more. And I think the best way to handle that is just to try to inspire them to see that community is not a church, not the building itself, but the people that are there. And by showing them that, I think that's going to be a big eye opener.
Well, that is so good. And I think the first two things we talk about just flow so well into the next thing that I wanted to highlight is just understanding their need. So it's like you said, once you understand the why, get past the surface level and get to their heart, those things that are really making them emotional about it. And then, so what do you need? What is the need going forward? And again, to be able to articulate that, and as you said, the church doesn't necessarily have to be the building. We've learned that, I think, in our short time following Jesus, it's the people. That's what it is all about. That's where the true need is. So if you know that in your heart, like Alana and I do, I mean, that's a great place to start. So whenever you're in a conversation with people, the third point, the need, I would say is understand the need from their standpoint. But you've got the secret sauce. You've got the answer as the person engaged in the conversation, because the need is Jesus. That is really at the heart of the need. And however that person needs to be reconnected in relationship with Jesus, whether it may mean leaving a physical church, that's okay. But it's staying connected with you, the person that you're talking to them with. That is the key. That's how God is working. So I think being that genuine disciple as you're working through this with somebody and representing Jesus wouldn't try to keep them from leaving a building or a religion. He'd be encouraging them to continue walking with him.
Yes, that's awesome. So, what would you say about someone who's thinking about leaving the church or already has? I'm going to speak into that because I actually have personal experience with that. In my early 20s, I was going to church regularly in the relationship that I was in, and I was teaching vacation Bible school. I was doing Sunday school. I was, singing in church. I was doing all the things in the building. But what was missing was like my own personal relationship with God. So I was doing everything that I thought I was supposed to be doing to be a believer, but I didn't know the heart in it. And so some things happened within the church that I don't need to go into the details of that, but some things that kind of turned, my stomach sour towards church. So I stopped going to church, and I maybe graced a church building after that, maybe like twice in 15 years. And so what I realized when I decided to get back into church, once my daughter wanted to do that, and I said, okay, let's go to church. What I began to understand through my faith journey after that is that what we've talked about, church is not a building, and it is the people. And even sometimes the people don't live up to what your expectations are. And that's okay, because we are all broken individuals. We're not perfect. But that is what having a close relationship with God can teach you and show you, is to have compassion for others and not to let other people take you from him. And so that was huge for me. So I think that if you're considering leaving a church, like, really just think about some of those aspects of it. It's not the building, but it is great to have a building to go to be surrounded by other believers. And don't let that one person make you leave and not go back, because sometimes that can even alter your relationship with God. I think in some ways it did for me. So Robert, do you have any testimonies in that area?
I've got maybe one or two quick ones. I had a good friend of mine who I was really close to, him and his family and their 3 kids. We interacted a lot at church. And then one day he just wasn't showing up. I'm like, dude, what's going on? He goes, well, they're not teaching deep biblical principles enough for me. And I remember and that was pretty new. I was pretty new to God. So I'm like, dang, I wonder what that means. I didn't even know what that meant. So I actually went back and talked to a good pastor friend of mine, and was saying, oh, well, yeah, that's a common excuse that we get from people leaving a particular church, is we're not teaching the way I want to be taught. So the advice he gave me, it isn't about that, or going to church to be entertained. And it's like, well, I'm not getting the kind of teaching that I think I should be getting. Well, that is diametrically opposed to what Jesus is teaching. It's not about what's in it for me. It's more about how can I be in relationship with you and serve you, and how can I learn more about how to live this life. So I was able to just interact with this guy, and I didn't make it an issue at all. I just kept the friendship and kept loving him just the way I always did, because that was the conclusion. Don't change the way you are with him just because he's leaving the church. Don't say, oh, you need to come back. All of that stuff. I don't think that's it. I think we just need to continue to show Jesus. And in that case, that's what I did. I continued to, not let that affect me because he wasn't going to our building, but maintain the friendship, and really didn't even make it a topic of communication. And then, of course, I moved away from there. So I don't know how it's all happened. We contact each other every now and then, but it's really good. And he's still looking to serve Jesus and that whole thing. So I think that would be my testimonial and how I handled it. And I don't think even today I would change that. I think I'd hate to be in a position where I'm trying to convince somebody to not do what they've made up their mind to do, right? So I don't think Jesus would ever do that.
No, definitely not. And he has, all of our journeys are our own. So yes, who are we to say what another person should do, right?
Yes.
All right. So if you found this video helpful, hit that like button to see more like it, and subscribe with the notification bell to receive regular updates, and comment down below. And this can be with questions or answers to a question that you ask.
We will see you next time on the journey from isolation to community, where the next step beyond is freedom.